It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into another episode of The Grind Line here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by Devin Little, my defense partner. We are joined also by Tony Wolak. Welcome back to the show after a few weeks off. Tony, how's it going coming back to the show here?
Oh, it's great. Kind of enjoying recording on Sunday night for a change. Had a nice long weekend, and yeah, not excited to get to the work week, but you know what? I had a good time this weekend, so I'll take it. But glad to be back with you guys.
Yeah, we're recording a little later. I mean, lots of stuff happening on this weekend. So, Devin, how's it going on another episode of The Grind Line here?
Yeah, you can blame me for our late recording this week. So if you guys are upset that we didn't release an episode on Saturday, you can boo me if you want. But yeah, of course, happy to be here with you guys. Really excited for today's show. I think today's gonna be one to remember.
Yes, there's some fun to be had. We're gonna be doing a mock draft, Red Wings mock draft, not our normal prospect corner type thing where we go through everyone, but you will know who's picked. But the Red Wings will be the focus on this one. But before we get to that mock draft, let's do our one good, one bad, as we always do on the show to start. Tony, let's get started with you. A good and a bad from the past week.
Well, I think this would have been a little bit more timely if we recorded on Thursday, but still, it's been in my head all weekend. But one good and one bad, same topic. Ted Lasso finale. I mean, it's I'm bummed that there's no more episodes to come. It was a bittersweet ending. I think it tied up everything pretty neatly. And glad to have watched the series while it was in its prime. So that's my good and bad. Gonna miss it, but I'm happy for the memories.
I gotta watch that show. I
Yes,
haven't
you
even
do.
watched it. Everyone talks about it. I got to get watching.
You might grow a mustache after the first season. Just saying.
Oh, I love Jason Sudeikis, so I'm pretty sure I'll like it. All right, Devin, a good and a bad from the past week here.
I'm gonna take a cue from Tony here. I'm not even gonna talk about hockey. My one good is the new Into the Spider-Verse movie. Saw that last night. Highly recommend if you like the first one or if you just like Spider-Man. Very good movie. Looking forward to the next one. My one bad were the two babies that were in my theater that really kind of put a damper on the experience. Who brings a baby to a 10 p.m. show? But
What?
yeah, we'll let's talk about hockey, all right, before I get mad about that again.
Yes, Into the Spider-Verse. I'm Across the Spider-Verse. What is this one's called? I don't remember the first one.
This one's Across. Yep.
Across. I just watched Into the Spider-Verse again yesterday. So we'll be watching Across the Spider-Verse soon. So yeah, looking forward to that. I'll keep it hockey for the good and the bad. My good is that we're getting closer to the draft, and the Memorial Cup is just wrapping up as we are recording here. That'll be done, and that means we're just a step closer to the draft happening. The scouting combine is next weekend, so and that's just we get to know more about the prospects as they get interviewed, and we get more of the personal stuff about them. So that's awesome to find out. So that's a good. We got all that coming up, and a bad is that there's only Stanley Cup final going on right now for actual hockey, and we'll see. I mean, the two teams in it, not the biggest teams, but hopefully there's some excitement as we go through the Stanley Cup final here. So, but just means that hockey is that much closer to being done, and we won't be able to watch until next season, which is a few months away. So that's a bad for me.
I'll throw in one more good just while you're talking about it. One more good is that TNT has the Stanley Cup final this year. Because I don't know about you guys, but I tend to like TNT's coverage way more than ESPN. So yeah, shout out to TNT.
There we go. Okay. Well, as we alluded to at the beginning of the show, we're going to do a mock draft to get going our big draft coverage. We have talked about the draft before, but we haven't done a mock draft. Actually, this will be the first time we're doing a mock draft on this show, which is really cool. Because, you know, like I said, we haven't done one in any of our in any of the seasons. I don't think we've done an actual Red Wings mock draft, right? Correct?
No.
So there we go. So this is the first, the inaugural mock draft for the Red Wings. And as you can see, we just threw up a screen share of the Draft Prospects Hockey's draft simulator. And we got some picks. Let's get started there before we get into the Red Wings picks. We got to know who came before, right? So let's start there. And, you know, obviously, Chicago Blackhawks chose Connor Bedard first overall. That's a no-brainer, really. Adam Fantilli to the Anaheim Ducks. Leo Carlsson to Columbus Blue Jackets. Will Smith, San Jose Sharks. Montreal Canadiens going with David Reinbacher. Arizona Coyotes, Ryan Leonard. Philadelphia Flyers, Zach Benson. And then finally, the Washington Capitals at 8 with Matvei Michkov, which is pretty fitting for them because that would be pretty much I'm not saying Michkov would be Ovechkin, but you never know. So as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, that is on the screen. But for our listeners, hopefully I didn't go too fast through the picks, but you know, you can rewind and listen to it again. Okay, well, now we're at the Detroit Red Wings pick, and we're going to get to the selections, and Tony and Devin are going to debate who they should pick at 9th overall here. And you guys have a 5-minute clock because that's what they get at to kind of discuss this. So I'll just throw it over to you guys. Tony, Devin, debate who should the Red Wings pick at number 9.
All right. Devin, happy to go first, but just a quick overview of who's still available for those listening at home. We have Colby Barlow, Oliver Moore, ASP, Dalibor Dvorsky, Braden Yeager, the usual suspects here. Tom Willander is at the, a little further down on the list here, but he's still available, of course. In my opinion, the Red Wings should draft Dalibor Dvorsky. All around phenomenal center, would fit in well with the Red Wings organization from a cultural standpoint. His work ethic and his commitment to the game is in line with that of Dylan Larkin and Mort Seider and kind of the players that that Yzerman has brought to the Red Wings in recent years. Great playmaker, great goal scorer. Drives play, up the ice as the main driver of his line. Was phenomenal for Team Slovakia at the U18 Worlds. That's who I'm pounding the table for. How about you, Devin?
As far as I'm concerned, given who is still on the board here, there's really only 2 players that I would consider here. One of them is Dvorsky for all the reasons you said. I think he's a very cerebral player who is capable of slowing the game down and making the game, kind of cater to his pace rather than the other way around. And like you said, he really fits in. I think he's a really smart player, can carry a line, center. Red Wings could use another one of those. Played in the Hockey Allsvenskan this year. So, Red Wings love their Europeans. So very valid pick there. Only other guy I'd go to bat for here would be the guy at number 9 here, or the 9th ranked player here, Oliver Moore. And the reason why I throw Oliver Moore here is, you talked about how Dvorsky would fit in. I think Moore has, when you talk about Oliver Moore and you talk about what player he might become, a NHL comp, I think the player that comes to mind happens to be the Red Wings captain, Dylan Larkin. And I think that's if you can add him in, he's the fastest player in the draft, the best skater in the draft. Larkin obviously came into the league and he was known for his speed too. So he's a centerman, would probably start in the wing in my opinion, but could shift over to down the middle at some point. I just think Moore would come into Detroit and have like a tailor-made role model already there for him to follow. Not on the ice and off the ice, because Larkin obviously obviously, as you know, he's the captain, so he makes an impact on and off the ice. Also, I think that aside from Larkin, the Red Wings don't really have a ton of speed per se. They have good skaters, but not a lot of speed. Moore would help that. And I think I think he certainly has the potential to be a top line center in the NHL. So for me, it's Dvorsky or Moore. I do agree with like I said, I agree with everything you said about Dvorsky. What do you think about Moore?
I do like the type of player that he is, and I agree that Dylan Larkin is a great comp for him. He like his speed is phenomenal, and I don't know. I personally don't see his ceiling as high as Dvorsky. There are a lot of great qualities about him, but I don't know if he's going to reach that high and throughout his career. Are you leaning one way or another between these two?
You know, it's kind of funny. I think a lot of players in this range, you could say, could go at ninth overall, and they might also be available when the Red Wings have their next pick at 17. I think that Moore is one of those players that could still be on the board at 17. I wouldn't bet on it, but I think there's a chance he could still be there. Whereas I think Dvorsky's probably gone by like pick 12. I don't think they're going to have a second shot at picking him. So just based on that, I think Dvorsky's probably the right way to go here. And I'm crossing my fingers and my toes that Moore slides down to 17 because I think that'd be a phenomenal value pick for them.
Yeah, I'm on board with the Dvorsky pick. One thing that I didn't mention before, but it's worth noting, is that he is one of the youngest players available in the draft, and that only speaks to what his ceiling could be. So if you're comfortable with that, let's go ahead and make that pick.
Let's do it.
All right, Dalibor Dvorsky it is at number 9 for the Red Wings.
All right, so Dalibor Dvorsky to the Detroit Red Wings, and St. Louis Blues are on the clock here. So let's get simming through the rest of these picks here. So Pittsburgh Penguins, let's go. Well, I just missed it. So Colby Barlow goes to the St. Louis Blues. The Vancouver Canucks select Oliver Moore, so he's gone. So not dropping to 17, Devin. Callum Ritchie going to the Arizona Coyotes. Nate Danielson to the Buffalo Sabres at 13. 14th overall, Axel Sandin Pellikka going to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And Braden Yeager, 15th overall to the Nashville Predators. And 16th overall, Dmitry Simashev, defenseman, going to the Calgary Flames. And we're back to the Detroit Red Wings on the clock here. That's the quickest draft that would ever happen.
For sure.
So we're up to 17th overall here at the Detroit Red Wings again. Turn it over to you guys. You're on the clock.
All right. And just to cover off who's still available. So it's Edward Soleil, there's Otto Stenberg, Gabriel Perreault from the U.S. National Development Team, Samuel Hanzek, Matthew Wood is still available. And then Tom Willander is still available as well. So those are some of the higher ranked players still on the board here. Devin, is anyone jumping out to you as the clear cut number 17 choice here for the Red Wings?
I don't have a clear cut one. I think we're still in that range where a lot of these guys are still, or a lot of these guys are kind of at the same level. You can kind of feel just as confident from one guy or the other guy that he's going to be a impact player in the NHL. And I think that I'm going to name two guys here that I think the Red Wings should consider here. One is Tom Willander. It's kind of a well-known thing, especially if you watch and listen to this show, that the Red Wings have a need on the right side of the blue line in the prospect pool. And I think in this draft, once you get through the top 3 or so guys on the right side of the blue line, the quality of prospect goes down pretty significantly. So if you don't get one of those guys, you're getting like a project. And I think that Willander's kind of the last of the 3 that I would consider having potentially like top 4 upside in the NHL without like having to really groom him. He also plays over in Sweden, Rogla's J20 team. Red Wings have a lot of confidence in Rogla and how they develop prospects. He's Swedish. I don't need to make the joke. You already know what the joke is. And he fits a need, right? I think that Willander's someone to consider here. The other player I want to throw out is going to be Matthew Wood. And the reason why I like Matthew Wood is because, well, there's a number of reasons. One, he's got some good size, 6'3", 6'4", I forget what exactly. He's got kind of the power forward build. Played his freshman year in the University of Connecticut this year. So he's not beating up like 16-year-olds. He's beating up, or he excelled against, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. And he did really well too, especially on a team that wasn't like an elite team this year. I think that the Red Wings could use some size and skill on the wing. I think Wood would provide that. Yzerman talked about the Red Wings needing to be tougher to play against, right? And I think that you can do that by adding prospects that make that so. I think Wood is one of those. I do have some reservations about Wood in terms of him maybe being an Anthony Mantha 2.0, but I think that he's got some really high end skill, and I've really liked what I've seen from him as a freshman this year. I think that he's if he went higher in this draft, I honestly wouldn't be surprised when the draft does happen later this month. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he fits a couple needs for the Red Wings. So for me, I'm at Wood and Willander. Where are you at?
Agree 100% with the Willander consideration here. You made some great I guess statements about Matthew Wood and what he bring to the table. I'm a little bit concerned about his skating, and the Red Wings tend to select players who are strong skaters. One other name that I'd throw out there is Gabriel Perreault. You just can't ignore his production with the national development team. I could go either. I'd be happy with all three of those prospects, to be completely honest. If I had to choose, I'd say Willander, just to address the need on the right side of the blue line. The Red Wings clearly have a great relationship with Rogla and the Abbott twins who run the program over there. They're going to do their due diligence before the actual NHL draft, that's for sure. This to me, Willander feels like the pick here for the Red Wings. It's a player who was ranked a little further down on the list towards the end of the season, and started to creep up as the U18 worlds were going on. This feels like Moritz Seider 2.0 in terms of his rise, and then the surprise pick earlier in the draft. But that's where I'm leaning, at least. How about you, Devin?
Yeah, to me, the Red Wings need to figure out a way to replace Filip Hronek, whether it's this year or 2-3 years from now. That's a hole. That is a definite hole in their roster, and I think Willander is he's a player that can fill that hole down the line. Like I said, any other right-handed defenseman they get is going to be a bit more of a project, in my opinion. I think Willander is the last of like the top three guys here. I'm also of the opinion that the Red Wings shouldn't load up on forwards in the first round because they have more than one need. If they go both forwards, fine. They're going to have a really nice pool of prospects, pool of forward prospects going forward. But Willander's on the board. Like I said, I think he's the best. He's the best defenseman available easily. Red Wings need a right-handed defenseman. They have trust in Rogla. I think there's just too many boxes that are checked by the Willander pick.
All right, so it sounds like we're in agreement there. All right,
Yeah.
Tom Willander, it is.
All right, so the Red Wings have picked Dalibor Dvorsky and Tom Willander in the first round. So let's get simming to our second round picks, which are 3 in a row. And there's so many picks here. We will not go through them all, but we have now jumped to the 41st overall pick, and the Red Wings are on the clock again for the next 3. So let's go. Let's pick those second round picks. And over to you guys.
I do want to just note that we won't be going into the third round or later, just because there are hundreds, if not 1,000 players to be considered here. So we'll just keep it to the first 5 picks of the draft. So, among the top players here, you have Maxim Strbek from Team Slovakia and the Sioux Falls Stampede of the USHL. You have Daniel Butt from Yaroslavl, the MHL. Cameron Allen from the Guelph Storm. Alex Chernik from Sweden. William Whitelaw from the Youngstown Phantoms of the USHL. And I think if we scroll a little further, we'll find David Edstrom from Sweden as well, and Charlie Stramel, Noah Dower Nielsen. All right, Devin, I'll pass it over to you first for number 41. Are there any players that jump off the board for you?
Well, the cool thing about this position is that you don't have to dig your heels in for one player, right? Because you get one guy, you got two more picks to make. I mean, there's literally like 7 players I consider with these 3 picks. I don't think there's, I mean, there are definitely wrong decisions here, but I think there's a lot of right decisions. I think Daniil Butt is a high upside pick here in the second round. There's the Russian factor that's, going to be a thing. But I think that he's one of those pure offensive players that I think the Red Wings could use. And they have Dmitry Bachelnikov in the system already. So, they're not scared to draft Russian prospects, especially early on in the draft, right? I think I like his potential a lot, especially with this in this area of the draft. I do also like Cameron Allen. We just talked about the need on the right side. It's nice to have Willander. But then it falls off after that, right? What happens when he graduates and the right back to having no right-handed defensive prospects. So I think he's one that I'd consider taking with these 3 picks. And then one other guy I do want to throw out was Charlie Stramel. Similar thing that I had with Matthew Wood. He's big. He's played in college. I think he has some upside in terms of being a power forward in the NHL. That means need size up front. I think these are all guys that are worth considering. But we're just focused on 41 right now. Where are you at with this, Tony?
If we're focused on just number 41 here, I think Daniil Butt is the higher upside player here that's still available. Depending on whose rankings you're following, he could be somewhere in the teens, if not almost to 50. So it's good that he's available for us here. He's one of the players you mentioned. I would be comfortable taking him at number 41 to have, like you said, the pure offensive upside, the size, and then the Red Wings were comfortable with drafting Dmitry Bachelnikov before, so they might be comfortable drafting another player out of Russia. So if you're good with it, we can take Daniil Butt at number 41.
Let's do it.
All right, pick us in number 41, Daniil Butt from Yaroslavl. Now moving on to number 42. I agree with you. There are several players who I would be happy with at this pick. I don't think the Red Wings need another goalie at this point, so I think we can safely cross off the likes of Trey Augustine and Carson Bjarnason and the rest of the top goalies in the draft. I mean, it's great to have depth, of course, but I think right now the Red Wings have higher priorities. I guess from a strategic standpoint, I would personally be okay taking 2 forwards and ignoring the right side of the blue line for the time being, just because the Red Wings have Moritz Seider, who is still very young. We have just selected Tom Willander as well. And then after that, there's Antti Tuomisto and not much of anything else. But I still think the Red Wings need more goal scorers and like top tier offensive players. And if they have the top 2 right-handed defensemen of the future already in the system, the third pair or just insurance picks, beyond that, like not the highest priority in my opinion. But what do you think, Devin?
Yes and no. I do agree that, in theory, you've got Seider and Willander now, and you got your top 4, you're good to go. So, and you can sign bottom pairing defensemen every year if you needed to. So it's not really that big a deal. But also you're putting all your eggs into Willander, right? What if he doesn't pan out? Then you're back to needing a fill-in, right? And you don't have anybody coming up to like challenge him. I think you got to get at least one. I think you can do 2 forwards and 1 defenseman here, 1 right-handed defenseman. just as kind of an insurance policy. Maybe they pan out to something, maybe they don't, maybe they're trade bait later. I just think that it's not wise to put all of your eggs into one basket. And right now that basket is Willander. Very solid prospect. Glad that we got him at 17. But you can't treat it like he's a slam dunk to be a top 4 defenseman. You've got to have an insurance policy.
So between Sturback and Cameron Allen, is there one that you prefer here?
I'm fine with either one, to be honest with you. I think Sturback's more of a Red Wings pick. But I have my I have time for Cameron Allen. If he's the pick, I think he fits too. I also think that Allen, given that the Red Wings, where the Red Wings are in terms of their defensive prospects, they can afford to give Allen time to develop into a useful NHL defenseman. They don't have to rush him. And I think that he's a prospect that would benefit from a club that can be patient with him. But like I said, whether it's Sturback or Allen, I think one of them's got to be a pick, but either one I'm fine with.
All right. This really makes me think about, like, on draft day, the Red Wings have all their scouting staff either at the table or, a quick phone call away. And there's scouts from different regions of the world banging the table for their guy. Like there's a European scout banging the table for Sturback after seeing him at the U18 Worlds. Another scout who follows along with the USHL who saw him play there. And then there's an OHL scout watching Allen play for the Guelph Storm. All the debate going on about which guy's player should be this pick. To be completely honest, I could go either way between the two. One player I'm banging the table for at 43 is William Whitelaw. I see him as like a definite Red Wings pick, fits the trend with high upside USHL players selected in the second or third round. We've seen Robert Masters Simone, who did not sign with the Red Wings, but he was drafted out of the USHL. Carter Mazur was drafted out of the USHL. Dylan James was drafted out of the USHL last year. As high quality players who may not be higher up on the list because they're not playing in the Canadian juniors or overseas and professional leagues. But I think he brings the intangibles that the Red Wings really covet, the effort, the energy, not to mention the goal scoring and the playmaking ability and the speed that goes with it. So how about this? Let's make a deal. You get to pick right-handed defenseman. I'll go with whoever you pick, as long as we can take Whitelaw, number 44.
I'm a big Whitelaw fan myself, so we can go ahead and just take him at 42 if we want to. We're in agreement on this one. Let's do it.
Let's go ahead and take him there, and then you can go ahead and take our right-handed defenseman to close it out here. So number 42, William Whitelaw, you've been drafted by the Red Wings. And Devin, I'll turn it back to you for our next right-handed defenseman.
I am going to pick I'm going to pick Cameron Allen, and it's honestly kind of a swing for the fences a little bit. Obviously it's second round, so it's not like a huge thing, but this was at one point in time, he was considered the top defenseman in this draft, and then had like kind of a disappointing draft year. There's been a lot of prospects over the last couple of years that came in hot. I'm thinking of Brad Lambert. I'm thinking of Atu Ratu, players like that who were considered top players in the draft and then didn't have the draft year they wanted, and then fell to the bottom of the first round and even the second round. And then the very next year, they start to look like themselves again. So I think if Cameron Allen can, he had a bad draft year, but if he rebounds, he's going to be an exciting prospect to pair with Willander in this draft. So I'm going Cameron Allen.
I'm all for it. All right. Number 43, Cameron Allen to the Red Wings. All right. So that closes us out for the first two rounds. And just to recap, number 9, Dalibor Dvorsky, center out of Slovakia, and also Hockey Allsvenskan in Sweden. We have Tom Willander from the Rogla program in Sweden. We have Daniil Butt out of the MHL Yaroslavl We have at number 42, William Whitelaw out of the USHL, and number 43, Cameron Allen from the Guelph Storm. All right, this was fun. I'm happy with this this haul here. I don't know about you, Devin.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it too. I think that next if this is the haul, next time we rank the Red Wings prospects, it's going to be really hard because they have a lot of really good prospects.
I agree.
Yes,
right.
I absolutely love that haul. William Whitelaw is one of my favorites too. So if the Red Wings got him, I would not be opposed to it. Because the Canucks don't have one in the second round unless they do something. So Whitelaw wouldn't be an option. So Red Wings getting him would be a great. I think it would be a good Red Wings pick. I can see them definitely picking him too because, like you said, USHL has been a place they've drafted from quite a bit in the last couple of drafts. So Whitelaw is probably on their radar for sure. Two right-handers, great there. And Villander's a great, a guy, I don't know if he'll drop that far, honestly. I think he may be going a bit earlier, but in this mock draft, he was available. So the Red Wings getting him, that's a great spot to get him too. So overall, a great first and second round. Send in the comments. Would you like this haul, this draft class? I mean, of the first two rounds coming in for the Red Wings. So leave us some comments on if you like it. If you don't like it, who would you have picked in those spots? So give us those comments for sure. All right. Well, that was fun. I think we should do it again next year. What do you think? I think that'd be a fun exercise. So stay tuned for next year. We're doing it again. But that was fun. I was an observer, but I was basically the commissioner, so just watching it happen.
I much preferred your overseeing of the draft than Gary Bettman. So good job.
There we go. I didn't get booed, so
exactly.
Oh, not even a single boo. How about that?
All right. Well, we got our mock draft out of the way, and before we move on to our comment corner, we got a couple quick questions before we end off the show. There's a message from the Hockey Writers.
Interested in writing for the Hockey Writers? If you have experience writing about hockey, are passionate about the sport, and are looking to take your writing to the next level, the Hockey Writers could be the place for you. Here at THW, you will have the opportunity to hone your craft at one of the world's largest and most respected hockey publishers. You will have control over what you write, be able to seek out media credentials, and be supported by a large network of writers and editors. Plus, you'll get paid for doing it. If you're interested and want to know more about team openings and requirements, please visit the Write for THW page on the Hockey Writers website. A link to that page is also listed in the description.
Okay, well, let's get back to the show, and let's do this quickly because we have this is probably going to go a little longer than our normal shows, but we got a comment. We got a couple comments in our comment corner. Our first one is from Justin Shields, and he talks about basically an article, Devin, you wrote not that long ago about this, and asking about the Vancouver Canucks trading pick 11 and a big contract to the Detroit Red Wings to move down, grabbing that first round pick later on and swapping it with the pick 11. So that would change our whole mock draft completely. But but say that happens, Tony, since Devin, you wrote the article. Tony, what are your thoughts about this? What do you think about the Red Wings moving that pick to the Canucks and them taking on a bad contract like a Tyler Myers? I'm hoping Oliver Ekman-Larsson, but I don't think that's happening. But what do you think about that happening at the draft?
Yeah, Matt, you and I were talking about this offline with, I guess, which Vancouver Canucks big contracts would be, worth trading or worth acquiring from the Red Wings perspective, which are kind of viewed as negative value contracts right now. And, those who'd have to be, shipped out along with a sweetener versus players who still have positive value, even though they're making a lot, and the Red Wings would have to trade something to acquire them. I know the idea of Tyler Myers was brought up. I believe if I'm not mistaken, he's making $6 million for another year on his contract, plays the right side. And in Vancouver, he'd been playing top pair minutes with Quinn Hughes. If the Red Wings and Canucks work something out where the Red Wings took on his contract and got Vancouver's number 11 pick, and Vancouver received the Red Wings number 17 pick. I'm all for it. It opens the door for the Red Wings to draft maybe a player like Colby Barlow or Oliver Moore, who Devin was pounding the table for earlier. I would be totally open to that. But the one player who from the Canucks who I'm high on is Brock Besser. And I know he hasn't had the best last couple seasons, but he's still relatively young. I think he's only 26, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm not sure there's a way for the Red Wings to get Vancouver's number 11 pick and Brock Besser in the same trade. They'd have to give up 17, probably a second round pick, and probably a prospect on top of that. If they can do that, great. But as long as, the Red Wings are still getting their second first round pick. But I'd be totally on board with Tyler Myers just to move up 6 spots. How about you, Devin?
Yeah, first of all, shout out to you, Justin, for planting this seed, because saw that and the gears definitely started turning. Hope you read the article. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. The Red Wings are at going into the offseason, the Red Wings are like under the cap floor. They need to spend money this offseason. They're going to spend some money, right? They got some guys to sign. They got to get a goalie. They're not going to have trouble reaching the floor, but even if they, sign a goalie and sign their guys and maybe even bring in some help, they'll still have a lot of money to spend. And that's not going to be the case, I think, starting next offseason, because Moritz Seider needs a big deal. Lucas Raymond needs a new deal. If they bring in a big gun, he's going to be getting paid too. I think this is the Red Wings' last opportunity to really do this type of move where they bring in a big money contract to boost their draft assets. So if they're going to do it, now's the time. And I think that this move is kind of a 2-for-1 deal. Not only do they move up 6 spots, and then which enables them to maybe get an Oliver Moore or maybe an Axel Sandin Pellikka or something like that, right? It also fills a short-term need. Tyler Myers is making $6 million and is and the Canucks need to move that money, but Myers isn't a cinder block. He actually is effective. Matt, I talked to you for this article, and he fit in pretty well along Quinn Hughes, right? I envision a pairing of Simon Edvinsson and Tyler Myers. Edvinsson's 6'6", Tyler Myers is 6'8". Good luck getting behind that. And Myers he'd be playing a reduced role. He was playing top line minutes with Quinn Hughes. I don't think Edvinsson's getting top pairing minutes. Myers can just kind of stay at home and let Edvinsson do his thing. I think that's a really good fit. Myers is only has the 1 year left on his deal, so it's not like the Red Wings are like really committed to him. And what's even better is that if Myers has a good year and then the trade deadline rolls around, they can retain half of his money and send him off to somebody. I think somebody will take Tyler Myers at $3 million and maybe give the Red Wings something nice for it. So I like this idea a lot, actually, and I kind of wish I would have been the one to come up with it. So shout out to you, Justin.
You're right. There could be worse mentors for Simon Edvinsson. He may miss a few games this season from shoulder surgery and getting up to speed. But yeah, Tyler Myers, what was he, number 12 overall pick during his draft year? Like that lanky offensive defenseman. He's settled into more of a defensive role now, but yeah, there could be a lot worse players who are, paired up with Edvinsson and sort of guiding him through his first full season in the NHL.
Plus, yeah, just kind of a silly thing here. I'm still a little sour for him winning the Calder Trophy over Jimmy Howard back in 2010. So if this happens, I'll forgive him. But.
I think Myers gets a bad rap in Vancouver. He's a whipping boy here. Anything he does bad, he does one thing bad and everyone hates him. He has his flaws, every defenseman does, but there was that one season, every time he was on the ice, he was making a bad play or taking a penalty. But overall, I've liked his his play this past season, because ultimately, I mean, Quinn Hughes, yes, he was the best defenseman on the Canucks, bar none. But I think Myers is the second best. Because I think he played really well this season. I'm probably in the minority of any Canucks fan, because Canucks fans don't seem to like him at all. But and media as well. They call him the Chaos Giraffe. But I mean,
The Red Wings need a player with a cool nickname like that. Come on.
I think it's not that. I don't know, but I mean, like I said, he makes those bad turnovers at times, but I think overall he's a really good defenseman, and like it's not bad risk. Red Wings taking him on for a year, and like you said, they can flip him at the deadline, and a team will. I mean, he's a decent defenseman. He's not a bad defenseman. He can play. He kills penalties. Can be on the power play if he wants, but like I said, he's not that anymore. But I don't know. I would hate. I like Myers, so. But if they can get rid of his contract and get a second round pick out of the deal, or just overall get that contract off the books because they need cap space, I'd be all for it too. Okay, well, let's move on to our last comment corner question, and this is talking about trades. And Don, you return to the comment corner after a week off. Question is, who might Steve Yzerman be willing to trade away this offseason? Start with you, Devin. What do you think? Who do you think Yzerman could trade?
Got a couple players I'm going to throw up. First and foremost, I'm going to say Robbie Fabry. And it's not because Fabry is disappointing or anything like that. I think that as the Red Wings continue to add young forward talent to their roster, they need to make space somewhere. I look at the Red Wings depth chart already, and I kind of wonder if Fabry is starting to become a bottom sixer for the Red Wings just based on who else is there. And I mean, he's pretty good depth if you have him as a bottom sixer, but at the same time, I think you could get something nice for him and not have him in the bottom six. Also, let's face it, he's injured a lot, and that not really much he can control in that one, but I'd rather have a player on the lineup who has a better history with staying healthy. But it is what it is on that one. A couple other players, I'm going to say the 2018 boys. That's Joe Veleno and Philip Zadina. I've said it a lot. I'm a Philip Zadina believer. I know you are too, Tony. I don't think Yzerman's in a rush to trade him. Zadina had an unhealthy year this year, so I don't think that the book is closed on him per se. But if they're gonna, go out and get a big fish, I think Zadina is the type of player that can be included in a package to get that player. Plus, I think it's a pretty popular sentiment that he's a player that could use a fresh start. So I think he's at least someone to consider that could be moved. And then Joe Veleno, he is a pending RFA. Shouldn't be too expensive to re-sign. I think he's going to get between 1 and 2 million. So it's not, whatever. But he's kind of like Zadina, where if they're going to get a big fish, I think Veleno's a piece that could be included and would provide some value for a team that wants to, add some young assets. Veleno's kind of, with Marco Kasper coming in, Andrew Kopp signed. God forbid they get Dalibor Dvorsky and others, down the middle. Joe Veleno's pretty much then stuck as a fourth line center. And maybe that's what he is at the NHL level. I think he's a pretty darn good one if that is what he is. But for his sake, maybe he would like an opportunity to prove he can be something more than that. And I don't know if the opportunity is going to come in Detroit. So it might suit him to be part of a trade package to maybe get a better, bigger opportunity with another team.
My head was at kind of the same place when I was kind of going through the Red Wings depth chart and trying to figure out if Yzerman would trade a player this summer. I don't think he will. I think the Red Wings are going to go into camp with all the players that they currently have, plus probably a few more added on top of that. I mean, we saw last year with all the injuries, they need the depth.
Absolutely.
Just if I had to go through and pick out a name, I know there's a lot of depth on the left side of the blue line right now. There's Jake Wallman, there's Simon Evanson, Ali Mata, Ben Sherratt, not to mention the guys in Grand Rapids like Albert Johansson, William Wallinder, Jared McIsaac, Donovan Springo, Emil Vero. I know a lot of you want to trade Ben Sherratt. That's not going to happen. He's got 3 years left on his contract. And if anything, the Red Wings would have to give up a prospect or draft pick to move him at this point. Ole Mata just signed a contract extension, as to Jake Wallman. They're not going anywhere. Edmondson's not going anywhere. And going back to what Devin was saying, the Red Wings do have quite a few bottom six forwards. There's Dominic Kubalik, there's Jonathan Berggren, there's Fabry, there's Zadina, there's Elmer Soderblom, Michael Rasmussen, Joe Veleno, and I think you could probably throw Carter Mazer into that group as well after his World Championship performance. If anything, they could move one of those players. Maybe it's Dominic Kubalik, since his stock's pretty high after a nice tournament with Czechia. I don't see them trading anyone, to be completely honest, but if so, it'll be one of those bottom six forwards.
Yeah, that's a good. I think it's probably going to be one of those two. I don't think they're moving. Like you said, Sherratt's just. I don't think they. I think Yzerman had a plan when he signed him. I don't think he's going to all of a sudden say, "No, we don't want him anymore." I think he's probably part of this team for most of his contract, unless they can move him somewhere else later on. But I don't think that's happening either. If it was me, I'd probably say the bottom six and some of the bottom six. If he does move someone, I'm of Tony's belief. I don't think he probably will, because like Devin, you said, you have to spend money. If you get rid of someone, there goes that money too. So
yeah,
unless you get someone in return that's about the same. But I think they're probably going to keep on, unless they let. But stuff happens at the draft where you get an offer and you can't refuse it. It happens, right? So we'll just have to see what Yzerman has up his sleeves. Like I said, we didn't anticipate what he did free agency and trades last season what he did. So he seems to be able to surprise us. So we'll just have to find out and wait and see. Okay, well, I have one off the rush question to end the show here. This is on similar to what the Canucks, trading with them, but here's a quick thing. Tony, I'll start with you. Other than Vancouver, who do you see as another trade partner to move up in this draft if Yzerman decides to do that?
Wow. I'll give you two teams. I guess, yeah, they could move up from 17, but if they want to move up from number 9, I would say trading up with Montreal to number 5. That's a possibility. I know we were chatting, Devin and I were chatting about that with Blaine and Tredge in our Slack channel. That's a possibility. Also Philadelphia at number 7. If Michkov falls, and you're pretty certain that the Capitals are going to pick him at number 8, you can jump ahead. I know if new Flyers general manager Daniel Briere is given the opportunity to add some more draft picks, more prospects to the pipeline as they rebuild or retool, he'll hopefully jump for it. That'll allow the Red Wings to move to number 7 and draft a potential generational talent who they may not get for a few years, but at least they'd still have potentially the number 17 pick depending on what's traded. So yeah, Montreal at number 5 and Philadelphia at number 7.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Devin, what do you think? Some teams that they could deal with to move up in this draft if he decides to.
Yeah, I've heard some rumors, whether they're valid or not, that Montreal might be looking to trade back. So if that is the case, definitely give them a call and see, what's what, because like you said, Tony, if you can add Michkov, you definitely should. The Red Wings can afford to wait. And then I'll throw out the Arizona Coyotes moving up from 17 to 12. Arizona Coyotes could use an extra second round pick. They only have 1 second round pick. I would dangle one in front of them to move up from 17 to 12, get one of those guys that I was pounding the table for earlier. Maybe the Coyotes throw in like a third or a fourth, just kind of even out the value. But I think that basically what I think the conclusion here is that the Red Wings should have options to move up. It's just kind of a matter of whether they want to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, 100%. I think the Red Wings are definite partners for the Canucks for moving, because the Canucks don't have any second round picks. Red Wings have one of them. Of those three, one of them are the Canucks. So yeah, and they also have their first rounder too now. But yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to have that trade happen with the first rounders moving too, because they would basically just getting it back. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting what Yzerman does, if he does anything at the draft, because those second round picks, I mean, you can trade one of them, you still have two, and be able to maybe get a prospect that you wouldn't normally get by moving up. So we'll see what he does. Okay, well, that was a fun episode. We had a mock draft. We had some talk about some trades at the draft potentially. So that was fun. So thanks, Tony. Thanks, Devin, for providing the entertainment. And thanks everyone for watching another episode of the Grindline. Make sure checking out thehockeywriters.com for all the content leading up to the draft. We got draft targets. We got off-season planning type stuff. Tony, I know you got an article coming out. Well, it'll be out when this is out. So make sure checking out all that at thehockeywriters.com. YouTube channel obviously have the Grindline episodes. We'll be again doing hopefully a draft target episode coming up here before the draft happens. Get some other people on the show, and yeah, make sure checking out everything. Lots of content coming out as the draft gets closer and closer to June 28th and 29th, when all these picks will be made, and it won't be a mock draft anymore. It'll be the real thing. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time on another episode of The Grindline.
Cheers, gang.